Good evening. This is the Elliott Wave Daily Update for the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 for Tuesday, June the 25th, 2024. Kind of seems that we're getting a little mixed bag here. It's yesterday, the Dow was up substantially, the S&P up decent, the NASDAQ, the S&P and the NASDAQ were down, and the Russell was up along with the Dow. Today, the Dow down substantially. The Russell, not so severe, but down on the day. The NASDAQ rocking it to the roof, along with the S&P more slightly moderately. What does that really kind of produce for us in terms of what we're looking for from the market on an Elliott basis? Not a thing. But I've placed this submenu at fourth wave in place here in the S&P and also in the NASDAQ. Now, I got to be honest, I'm just putting it there because I'm feeling that we stand a chance that maybe we'll continue to see the buyers move back in to the Mag 7 and to some of the other stocks, or not. Now, if we don't, and we rotate back out, so again, tomorrow, it's the Dow up, it's the NASDAQ down, and et cetera, then we're still likely going to still be inside of this, what's appearing to be a fourth wave correction. It ceases to resemble, and my hourly chart, as you can see, it ceases to resemble a building 5 waves down. And I would not necessarily be looking for, within this fourth wave, even the start of a minor fourth wave of a leading diagonal coming down in an A wave. And I would still, even as it's starting here, finding it a little bit difficult to kind of work out whether that could possibly be a leading diagonal to form wave A of a minor fourth wave. So those are all the things that kind of run through my mind as I'm looking at the chart going like, okay, what is going on outside of the fact that it is very clear that we have a quadruple expiration coming up on Friday and end of the quarter coming up on Friday. And we are definitively seeing a lot of window dressing. Yesterday in NVIDIA, they were just like sold. Even after hours, sold. And then today, buy it. In fact, I think NVIDIA closed at 126. 126. Yesterday, it was trading closer to 116. So again, $10. Boom, just run it straight back up. And I don't know. Let me just double check. I want to see what the volume was there again. Look at that. Equal amount of volume. The amount of selling was yesterday. They bought it back today. Can't say it's all the same people or the same firms, but it traded 422 million shares yesterday. Food funding 23, a little bit more. And look at it. And they're still piling in right now. But here's the interesting thing, that the buyers are not able to get this back to 130, 133, 134. So they're meeting the sellers. So that's kind of what we hope for, I guess, if you're really looking for this matchup in the stock as portfolio managers and other asset managers and people that run, funds are moving in and out of stocks to do the window dressing. You're hoping that they just kind of meet up and can put it together at a decent price without causing too much swing in a stock. Well, today they traded an equal amount of what they traded yesterday. So it is just incredible, the amount of stock that is trading in NVIDIA. And so to me, as much as that on a capitalized basis, since it's a cap-weighted index, that NVIDIA still got a ton of money flowing in and out. Now, back to what we're looking at, then here in the S&P, if I place the 4 here, then we're hoping, if anything, maybe it can be a diagonal 5. That to finish, that makes a lot more sense to me. We got to wait and see, because I have to tell you, that's not a big jump from 55.10 to 55.35. It's $25. I get it, but it's not putting that big of a dent in the chart here. In fact, it sank all the way and was like touching the lows 3 times today before finally catching a bid. And that all started at about 1 o'clock. So the last 3 hours, we saw some pretty good upside taking place. So I'm going to look for that to continue. Now, moving this out, let's start on the 4-hour chart. Let's take a look at the moving averages. Still the same, basically, but now we've got the 50 going flat, and the 20 and the 13 going flat. So even though we had this mixed bag, which is why they go flat, they're managing to get it back and keep it above that 50, which is a more positive sign for the rally continuing. Beyond that, there's not much I can really hang my hat on after today. So what can we say about upside? Well, that I need to go in and just fix this just real quick. I thought I did it and I didn't. Take that off, take that off. 100% I use, and I got to put it in the right color so we know what we're looking at. I'll even take it all the way out to the full blown. So saying yes to all that, now we can see. So we have 56.18 is our first, where wave 5, should it be in progress, would be equal to wave 1. That's at 56.18. That's definitively a new high above 55.88 that we saw back on June the 19th. And so it produced a new high. And if we can go to 5 waves and it were to continue and we get 5 waves up, then it would be a fair chance that that's where it completes. But we have minuet wave 5, 2.618 coming in at 56.71, and then just be on top of that, we have 1.618 for the sub-minuet wave 5, and that would be our next zone if indeed the S&P is within the beginning stages of the sub-minuet wave 5 to finish the minuet wave 5. So those seem pretty strong in terms of if we get a continuation, that we're not necessarily looking for this thing to just really kind of skyrocket. Doesn't mean that it can't. I gotta be honest with you, it doesn't mean that it can't. But we are so hanging out, keeping things up at a top. And I think, again, and I know I've discussed this before, it's like last Friday, we had a very, very large expiration. This Friday probably going to end up being pretty large based on the fact that we've got all this posturing going on to finish the quarter. So it's a quarterly. So it kind of also can start to suggest that, like, what's being held up, they start to move out of coming next week or shortly, thereafter. Now, again, I want to just emphasize, even though we're still over a week away, we have the July 4th holiday coming up next Thursday. I would suspect that it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday that'll be the active days, where a lot of traders, both that work on desks and just individual traders, will be taking Thursday and Friday for a nice 4-day weekend. And I would imagine that makes a lot of sense, considering that it's been pretty hectic and pretty choppy and pretty messy for the last couple of weeks. All right, so over but as far as the RSI goes, still pretty good. Got a nice little launch factor going here on the 4-hour chart. And so let me just see what it looks like on the daily. On the daily, yep, it kind of peaked, started to come down, starting to head back up again. So that also gives us a little bit more like, yeah, it says finishing, because we're going to move right back into overbought pretty quickly here on the daily chart. All right, so let's go down and now take a look at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ was the winner, of course, because it just kind of popped in and popped in and popped. So you can see that here I've also put the 4 in, but it makes a little bit more sense. The liftoff that we got off of that, man, it looks pretty good. Even if I go 1, 2, 3, bigger 4, a little bit of overlap, I don't know. So again, here we are stuck in the middle, because here it could be like, what is this? You know, 1, 2, maybe, maybe. That's a 15-minute chart. But then we get this nice steep rise here. And I'm like, again, at the end of the day. So it's interesting. Nothing else, it's interesting. Not as easy to trade, but once they kick it into gear, it's easier to catch a trade and to make some decent money. But for a lot of the day, it was inter-bar, right? These are hourly bars. It was just bing, 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 bing. So, and I'm not talking about like, oh, it's just moving 3 or 4 ticks. I'm saying it's moving $4 or $5 or $6. So, when you're trying to kind of scalp and get in there and get out, you're going to get stopped out, because every trade that you do, you're protecting it. If not, then you're really riding it, carrying out a little bit higher risk. And then, you get your move and you get out. So, yeah, not the best, but not the worst day. Now, here, I've put the 4 as well. And now I've added ourselves. So again, it does kind of work out. If this was A, B, and then I got a 1, 2, 1, 2, and then a 3, and a 4, and then a 5. So the first 3 ends, 4 and a 5 ends, and then we get another 4 and another 5 to end the second. I know they're small, but it does work. And then again, we started to launch up and out. This kind of ugly, And right there at 1 o'clock hour, and then reversing it back all the way for the balance into the close. So again, what I think kind of happens there, monetization. Monetizing a position more than likely. Is just the options flows, to be honest with you. So let me just take this back down, look at the 15-minute chart. So once again, I mean, if I'm down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, could be a 1, and that's a 2. Small, but still a 1, 2. And here we are, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now let's see what they do. See, this is the thing, because you'd be looking like, okay, that's a nice angle. And maybe we're just going to go start breaking and get ourselves back above 20,000, and then on and up. So going back out to that hourly chart so that I can take a look at where are our fibs on this whole picture. So the high to top is 20,371. Above that, wave 5 will have produced the new high, which was what we're going to be looking for. And our first, so for sub-minuet wave 5, it would be 1.618 times the length of sub-minuet wave 1 at 20,558. And you're like, well, what about the other ones, Michael? It's like, well, let me show you that they really don't matter. So basically 618 is going to come in way down there. So let's take a look. Oops, that didn't work, did it? The one, actually 100, yeah, not, it's because it's still with it. So 618 would be even lower. 100 is 20,240. So that's why I didn't put it up there, because we're looking for a new high. I'm not looking for it to kind of fail. Can it? Yeah, it could, but that's not necessarily what I'm looking for. So anything underneath there, if we can count 5, and that's as far as we get, then it would be a failure if it turned around and just died. So, and again, this whole thing is not clean. And I'm going to keep talking about it too, that on an hourly chart, I'm looking for a clean 5 waves down to give support and additional backing to the fact that this high, or wherever this tops out, completed not only sub-minuet wave 5, but minuet wave 5, minor wave 5, and, excuse me, minute wave 5, and then minor wave 3. That's what I'm looking for, and this is not clean. This is chop, this is drop, chop, all the way. Now, one other thing, and this actually goes for both. What could this all be? ABCA. This drop another degree, right? Because this is sub-sub. So if we're marking a sub-sub A down here, then these are sub-sub-sub, however small you want to get. But there's that possibility, ABCA. Because look at it, remember? They open that up. Look at it on the 15-minute chart again. If this is ABCA, ABCB, and we come flying back down again. That is a possibility as well. And would it fit if we kind of roll in tomorrow and they're rotating back out of NASDAQ? Here comes the next group that they're rotating back into Dow, back into some of these, and rotating out of the NASDAQ. Just different things that may have been planned, right? Where they came in and they bought the NASDAQ cheaper because it got sold off yesterday. So, and the Dow Jones, they pumped it up yesterday, they sold it today. So the window dressing are getting decent prices. All right. So what happens tomorrow if we flip it around and we sell the NASDAQ again and buy the Dow and the Russell? Just a thought. All right, so, oops, I don't need that. So I'm going to bring it back out to the hourly. We'll take a look at the moving averages right now. Nothing great. The 200, the 50, look at that 50, comes right down onto that 200, and they're just kissing cousins right now, sitting right there. And then we have the 13 and the 20 on the rise. And so if this can continue, it's going to get, excuse me, it's going to get the benefit that it's going to cross over both pretty quickly, and that should give a boost to the rally, at least on a moving average basis. And the 200 is pretty flat, and that 50 start to poke its nose higher again. So if we get another good boost going, then everything's going to be back in alignment for the market to go up. If they come in and they sell it, it's going to be all in alignment for the market to go down. Because we already have the 200 here, that 50 sitting right on top of it. Any sell pressure pushes it below, and these turn, and the 13 will drip below the 20, and the 20 will turn, and then everything's in alignment to go down. Similar to what it looked like kind of here. Now, it sort of was in alignment, but except we need to get below the 200, which is on the verge of doing. All right, RSI, not looking too bad. But here we are, kind of edging our ways back up into overbought. And that's where I'm really going to keep it for today. Quick look out at economic data for tomorrow. New home sales at 10 a.m. and that'd be about it. So it could be another inside chop type of a day, in which case, trade carefully. And the next update will be on Wednesday, June the 26th.